This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so we are on, and the call is being recorded for just so that everyone knows. My name is Pascal Mansell. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure everybody on the call knows actually. And then we also have Nicole Tarver and Joy Sterling. We make up Power Mondays Mastermind. And today we have our guest, Mr. Andrew Ray, who is an awesome guy. And he is more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly, but Andrew is like phenomenal in his knowledge, if that's a way of saying it, of business credit, personal credit, business development, the whole 9 yards. So as this call progresses, and Andrew, after he gives you a wealth of information that you can take and use to go out and get the funding you're looking for, whether it's for your personal, but preferably for your business, so that you can, bring whatever it is that you're trying to bring to life. That would be, you really need to take notes if possible, or just listen up. The only thing I ask of everybody on this call, as always, is please be respectful. If you're on the call and you're not speaking, please mute your phone. That's something that it's desperate, because there's a lot of background noise. A lot of people are traveling and driving and what have you, or at their workplace or whatever the case may be, and so there's a lot of ambient noise in the background, and then it's just not good. So the only other thing I'm going to ask is that while Andrew is talking, or while anybody else is talking, that to be respectful of that person and allow them to speak, especially, our presenter for the day, Andrew Ray. If please be respectful of the fact that he's taking his time, and Andrew charges quite a bit an hour, and he's giving you his valued, $250, $300 an hour time for free. And so if it were me and I were you, I'd definitely take advantage of the fact that Andrew is on the call. So Andrew Ray, everybody. Andrew, if you can go ahead and tell us about yourself and get started giving out the best information that you have in your head to the people that are on this call.
Well, thank you, and good morning to everybody. Thank you for that amazing introduction, Pascal. It is my pleasure to be here and share this information with all of you, and hopefully it adds some value to what you're trying to do, or what you're in the process of doing, or what you had dreamed of doing and haven't started yet. So everybody is in different stages usually in their entrepreneurial journey, and the one thing that I could say that I start out with most of my talks or presentations is that access to capital is going to be a cornerstone of everything you do in business. And what I feel was, if you're over 40 years old, we were probably indoctrinated with the same type of thinking as myself and my contemporaries, in that credit is bad, you should save all your money, you shouldn't take risks, you shouldn't, get a good job, go to school, buy a house, all this old dogma. But if you're an entrepreneur, especially at this time in history, all those things, it's the opposite of what you're going to be experiencing. Because I don't care if you're a real estate rehabber that's flipping houses, or you're an e-commerce website and you're selling products online, or you're an Amazon seller, access to capital is going to be huge in starting your business, growing and expanding it, and scaling it. And at different stages, you're going to need different types of funding. So that being said, that's what I consult with people on a daily basis about. And what I teach them is to rethink what we feel about credit. And it's not just personal consumer credit, but also, more importantly for us entrepreneurs, is business credit or corporate credit as well. So the first thing to understand is that we have to relook at things, because people think of their FICO score as a personal identification of who they are and what their value is and stuff like that. And I really don't see it that way. What the whole thing about credit in general is, and especially for us entrepreneurs, is that it's the biggest leverage tool and access to money that you're going to have available to you. So in other words, optimizing both your personal and your business credit creates a synergistic effect in what you're trying to do. So leveraging between the two and learning about them and then taking action on that knowledge is going to be super powerful for all of you, I promise you. Especially if your credit's not so good right now, then it's a time to take an inventory and audit and look at it, because there's certain behaviors and things that maybe you had been doing that if you just made a couple different changes, you could turn it around. And in many cases, you can clean up the wreckage of our past, if you will, and a little bit of background about myself at this point, so you guys understand where I'm coming from and how I learned what I know and why I have a passion for teaching it. I'm actually, like Pascal said, my name's Andrew Ray. I've been in finance since 2003. So my introduction was here in Orange County in Southern California in the mortgage business. And this was a time when it was a resurgence. They were doing a lot of changes in the types of loan products and programs that were out there, and people had access to mortgage money at that time. So it was a big refinance boom. After the dot-com bust of the late 90s, they were trying to, they lowered interest rates. So a lot of people were, consolidating debt and renegotiating their mortgage to lower their payments. And that's when I entered into the industry. What I studied in university was a combination of social science. So that was cultural anthropology, psychology, and sociology. And then I minored in international business. And I even did a semester abroad in Europe studying business as well. So that's my passion, is between people and, finance, entrepreneurship, things like this. So anyway, I had my own mortgage company. Everything was going great. We remember the boom back in the day. Everybody was making good money. It seemed like they were doing these stated income loan programs. And in the industry, we called those liar loans because people were basically making up whatever they wanted, and it was almost like an institutionalized fraud in a sense, because the government and everybody was allowing these things to happen. And I remember scratching my head, even when I got as a newbie in the business. I was asking my managers, like, these people aren't qualified. How is this not going to end up being a big foreclosure boom at some point? And this is back in 2003. And he was just like, he didn't really have the answers either. Everybody was kind of hungry to make money and stuff. And my second question was, how do businesses buy real estate? And if I backtrack to my college days, the reason that I asked that question was because at the end of my education, I had the opportunity to meet many of these multimillionaire CEOs. And that's a whole nother story in itself, how I had this odd opportunity to sit down with these guys and pick their brains. But they opened up a different world than I had ever seen before or experienced. And essentially, they were showing me that the business world is run by corporate entities, corporations. And that, one of the guys I spoke to, he had 40 different corporations that he controlled. He had airlines, he had, entertainment studios, things like this. And he's the one that kind of opened my eyes that you need to learn the corporate game if you're going to really operate in this game of capitalism. And so that really expanded my knowledge. So when I went into the mortgage business, of course, I was wondering, hey, I even said to my manager, because he was like, here's how it works. You'll get a mortgage in your name, and then you transfer the title into your LLC or corporation. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking how the corporations themselves buy real estate. And it's funny who's our president now, because this is back in 2003. And I was like, Donald Trump's not signing his name on his mortgages for these companies the projects that his corporation is involved in. Oh, that's corporate credit. We don't know how that works. And I'm like, well, nobody knows. So I asked the owner of the company I work for, and he didn't know either. So I made it my mission to kind of seek that knowledge out, because I realized that it was, if these guys that taught me that this was important to know, and then I saw the middle and lower class people weren't even ever exposed to this kind of information, I was like, I wanted to learn it. But at that time, almost nobody was teaching it. So I searched, and I was going to boot camps, and I was making good money in the mortgage business, back then. It was a good time. It was really easy to do business, and the economy was flourishing, house prices were going up consistently, so it seemed all good. So I finally came across somebody who had kind of unveiled everything about how it worked, how you could build credit completely separate from your personal FICO score. And it's an actual process, and it's a formula that's pretty simple to do, and I'm going to go into more detail as this call progresses. So you guys, by the end of this call, will understand exactly how it goes. But like anything else, as simple as it can be, it's still going to not be easy necessarily, you know? So keep that in mind. But that's pretty much in anything, in life, in your fitness programs, in relationships or anything. There's going to take some work. But anyway, so he showed me that path, and I started my first C corporation, started a mortgage company, started building credit to it, built what's called, built what's called a Paydex score. So that's kind of the FICO score of your business, if you can think of it like that. And that's where if you establish that correctly and you build it out correctly, then you do not have to personally guarantee the credit you're building for your corporation or your LLC. And I thought, wow, this is super powerful because, you know, the thought of building credit to the company itself. And the guy that was teaching this also explained to us and showed us that what a corporation is essentially in the eyes of the law, and he even, you know, showed the laws. You can Google this yourself and you'll see the same thing, that it's a legal person. So you, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, become I call it the puppet master of an avatar. You know, it's in terminology, the millennials talk like this, so kind of a visual representation of how to talk about this stuff. So think of it like your business partner. You're setting this corporation up or this LLC, and you can build credit to it. It can acquire assets. It can sue and be sued. It can, you know, you can even, out of that parent company, you can have divisions or DBAs of that corporation that are separate from you personally as well. And I also learned during that time that that's how the tax system in business operates in addition to this. So knowing those two things is kind of the secrets that the super rich all know, and they all use it. And I feel like everybody should be able to have access to it, because what I'm seeing now in the modern era right now is that people are, there's an exodus out of the corporate America. And what I mean by that is people want to start working from home. With the internet and everything else, almost anybody can have a business and operate online. But now that corporate exodus is moving to your own corporate entity. So instead of working for a corporation, you can be part of your own corporation. And then you can navigate in this world of capitalism correctly. You can get all the access to the write-offs, you know, and playing that part of the game is an important component, because if you don't have that down, you're going to be taxed. You know, a lot of your profits are going to be taken away from you, and you're going to be paying more than you need to. And so getting with a good CPA to guide you is going to be essential, because handling that part of your business is going to enable you to have a higher probability of success. And as we know, anybody that's read recent reports about, you know, how many businesses fail in the first year and a half, is in some numbers, they say over 50%. And in the first 5 years, 80% of those companies end up failing. And the biggest reason for both of those is that they run out of money. So access to capital from the beginning is going to be essential, and it increases your chances of being successful in whatever you're trying to do. And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like you get financed once and you're done. It's like this is something you need to learn and incorporate in your business planning and as your business expands. So hopefully, hey, I got to break in. Somebody's got background noise going really bad, so if you could mute yourself, that would, okay, that sounds better. Okay, cool.
I just muted them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? But so back to it. So that is going to be super powerful for you to learn, incorporate in your business planning, and get started right away, because the sooner that you initiate this, you start seasoning your company and you're getting more and more access to more money. So learning, getting it going on, and then in the meantime, also optimizing your personal credit. If you already have really good credit, maintain it, grow it, use it as well. Because there's also other funding programs for your business that you can get access to right away with a tax ID under your LLC or corporation and a you'll personally guarantee these lines of credit. They're unsecured lines of credit, and some of them have an introductory rate of 0% for the first 12 to 18 months. So that's a very low payment for having access to capital. And once you secure it under your tax ID, these programs take that profile and put it under your business, which helps you also advance in the business credit building. And then it doesn't show up on your personal credit, which is a huge loophole if you think about it. Because if you had a bit, say, you know, I talk to clients a lot and they're maxing out their personal credit cards, so their ratios drop, or they actually go up, and then they're leveraged out, and it reflects on their credit report, and their credit scores drop. So that, you know, it's like this never-ending circle. But if you could transfer some of the balance, and this is business debt, where it belongs under the business, under the tax ID, your ratios will go back down, your credit goes back up, and your personal ability to obtain capital is increased. And, you know, if you're trying to buy a house or a car or anything else, we all know having a 720, hopefully a 740 or above, will increase. You'll get the lowest interest rates, you'll get the best rates, and you'll save yourself so much more money over time. And then you're putting it where it belongs under the business. You're tracking it as such with your CPA to get all the write-offs, because now all the costs of, I'm not going to say all the costs. Check with your CPA and make sure about this, you know, which entity and how to navigate with this. But a lot of your costs are going to be offsetting your tax liability, which is a huge thing, you know. So now you have to rethink in terms of when you're using capital, what are the benefits? What are you able to do with that money? You know, what's your return on investment? That's the question you start asking yourself. Not it's costing me money to do this. It's more like my company is investing in this so that we're looking to get this return. And that's huge. Once you start thinking like that, you're starting to think like a true entrepreneur. And then you become the captain of your own ship, you know, and you're the puppet master of this avatar. It's building credit. It's your funding vehicle. It's your protection in navigating through capitalism, from audits, from lawsuits, from everything else, so that if something happened to your business, it doesn't have to destroy you and your family and your personal life. And, you know, I think we would all agree that, of course, we don't want to have anything bad happen, but stuff happens in life. You know, unexpected things happen, and how we react to that is going to determine what our outcome ends up being. So back to the game of finance and how it all gets started. So let me clarify what corporate credit and business credit is and how I was taught, you know, the difference between the two and the similarities. Business credit is anything under a tax ID that you'll finance, and that can include commercial real estate, that could include these unsecured lines of credit that I mentioned earlier. It can include leasing equipment for your company. It could be if you're a big rig hauler, it could be your buying or leasing your truck. You know, it could be any of those kind of programs is considered business credit because it's under a tax ID, it's for business purpose, you know, things like this. Now, corporate credit specifically, and how I was taught, is that this is credit that's built just completely separate from the founder or owner of the company to the entity itself. And so let me clarify how that works and what that is. So corporate, we all understand business credit, and if you have any, you know what, Pascal, is it okay if I talked a lot? Some people might have some questions. Would this be a good time to open it up?
If anybody has any questions, you can unmute your phone. I'm sorry, and just ask. But until then, Andrew, if no one speaks up, you know, I don't know why, but a lot of people get really shy for some reason, and there looks like there's maybe about 20 people on the call, and 20 some odd people on the call. But I would just, if anybody has any questions, please ask. Anybody? Well, I have a question for you. Then, can you talk when you have the opportunity? Can you speak more on the you know, personal usage versus corporate usage and the advantages of, you know, doing things under your corporation / business credit, under corporate / business credit? Because what I have always found is, for me personally, you know, unless I'm trying to do something, different. I always like to have as much stuff funded or funneled through my corporation as opposed to me. I will take a smaller wage on my taxes because, and for me, I usually report about $144,000 a year in income, in personal income, and realistically, I do that whether I do more than that or less than that. I keep it consistent. Reporting $144,000, and you already know the reason for that, Andrew. And then my business hours reported at somewhere around 237. I think we did on my last taxes, something in that neighborhood, 237, 238 that we reported. But can you speak on that type of thing? Because I always find that to be one of the things people don't understand. There are different times to do different things.
Right. No, this is exactly what we're talking about here. And strategically, I don't know how many of the listeners here have read the book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But I know that book is about financial literacy. And Robert Kiyosaki goes into detail about, he calls corporations the biggest secret that the rich use to leverage their ability to create more money. And the biggest thing is what we're talking about. You can get millions of dollars, under your corporation. You're capped out as your personal, what you can get, That's a huge advantage right there. As we mentioned earlier, the tax advantages, and especially after this latest, the tax changes that happened, they cut corporate tax by 40%. And I remember watching the news and everybody was like, oh, they cut the tax for the rich and the middle class are screwed again. But I didn't see it that way. I was like, they cut the corporate tax, and even the middle class can have corporate tax. If you set up an entity and you run a business, even part-time or you're able to use more of those write-offs, So that's huge because you're keeping more money into your company, and the revenue that's going out or coming in is redistributed back into your company. And if you're saving yourself 20% of whatever revenue you created, that's a significant number in most cases. And so for you, Pascal, that is a smart strategy. You give yourself, that's what you do with a corporation or LLC if you're structured correctly, is you give yourself a living salary or something that you can, depending on your goals too. And again, you want to be smart in how you approach it. If you're looking to buy a house next year, you don't want to write everything off because you got to show income when you go to the mortgage broker. So that would be different than the years that you're already in your house and you want to acquire other properties to rent out, as long-term holds or whatever. So again, there's so many unique circumstances that we can't really address everyone, but in general, just having the ability to leverage credit under your company and it not affect your personal life so drastically is one of the hugest advantages. So it's something, again, everybody should learn quicker instead of waiting down the road. I remember when my first CPA was like, oh, you don't need to form a company until you're making $100,000 a year. And I'm like, why not? And he's like, well, you could operate as a sole proprietor. Well, if you're a sole proprietor in today's tax world, you're not getting near the advantages. And if you don't know the changes that are made, definitely get with a CPA that is a good corporate CPA, and they're going to break it down for you. I know Pascal and I are in the Chamber of Commerce up in LA, and there was a recent presentation by a corporate attorney that went into detail about these changes. And all the sole proprietors that were sitting there were like, oh my gosh, I really need to rethink this, because the stuff that they were able to write off last year, those were all taken away. So they are still, if you own a corporation or an LLC, you still have access to a lot of those advantages. So that's a huge reason right there. The separation between your person and your company, like I mentioned before, a lot of businesses, go through great times where they're making a lot of money, and then they go through slow times depending on, how the economy is going to go. And let's face it, we're at a 10-year mark. The last recession was in 2008. That's when it kicked off. So if you look historically, every 10 to 12 years, there's some kind of an adjustment in the market. Back in the 90s, it was the dot-com bust. Back in the 80s, it was the S&L, debacle. In the 70s, it was the gas crisis, and on and on. And we're at another point right now where everything's peaking. The real estate market was high. The stock market was high. So nobody has a crystal ball and knows exactly when it's going to happen. But all economists agree that there's going to be a slowdown of some sort coming. And I think the only thing that's preventing it from already happening is interest rates are still low. So those are things you want to watch as well. But now's the time to obtain capital. Now's the time to optimize your personal credit and your business credit. And why? Because when a recession happens, it's not the end of the world. Actually, most wealthy people make more money in a recession than they do when things are expanded. And the reason for that is you're buying stuff at, pennies on the dollar compared to and like people buying houses right now. I'm like saying, why buy your personal residence right now when we're at a peak, when we're at the top of the market? All it's going to do is go down, and then you'll have to recapture it, hopefully, if you stay forward. And some people, they'll come back to me and say, well, but the interest rates are low. And, that's a good argument because we are at historical, even though they've risen a little bit in the past year or so, we're still at historically low interest rates. So that's definitely something to consider and thinking about your long-term strategy. And again, if anybody outside of this call wants to jump on a consultation or a strategy session, I'd be happy to help them out and, answer any questions and clarify some stuff, Pascal. So I just want to throw that out there.
Actually, go ahead. I mean, you can give them your information now. You can give them your information at the end of the call as well. But just give them your number so they can start jotting that down and then, remind them of it at the end of the call if you will.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so if you guys want to reach out and set up a strategy session, our number directly is 844-440-FLOW. So that's FLOW or 3569. So 440-3569, 844 area code, and that'll bring you directly in. If you want to download a free guide on how to build corporate credit, you can go to our website, and it's www.flow, like FLOW, like flowing water, flowbusinessfunding.com. And the reason that I named that brings me to my point about how I kind of viewed this whole, as I was learning all these things about corporate entities and stuff like that, my mind, the way it thinks is I combine different things into the same conversation. Like, for instance, I realized that at some point, money is like an energy that's flowing through computer screens. There is no intrinsic value, like if you're at the bank, it's just zeros behind your name or number. And what we're trying to do, if we gain some altitude and look at it from a different angle, is all this money circulating around the world. We're trying to use these game board pieces called corporate entities, LLCs, corporations, and the different instruments in this game of capitalism, like, land trusts and Roth IRAs and retirement plans and any of these kinds of assets in our direction. So we're trying to bring more of that flow to us. And really, you've got to continue the flow. So when you stick it in the bank and just let it sit, you're losing money. You're not allowing it to flow. When you sell a house, for instance, and you do a 1031 exchange into a property of similar or increased value, you offset your tax liability, you continue the flow, and you keep it going. If you've got a business where you're creating revenue is the flow. Holding on to more of that flow of energy from not having to give it to the government for tax. I mean, we all want to pay our fair share. I'm not trying to say that you avoid paying tax. What I'm saying is use the system the way it's set up to maximize your ability to keep more of it in your company where it belongs so you can continue to grow. Flow and grow, that's what I call it. And so you might take it from the revenue coming in, and at the end of the year you have some excess revenue that you would have to report as income. But if you had a nonprofit set up, you can land it in the nonprofit, and that's kind of where the circle happens, because then, it's going to a place that can defer it and give back to the community that you live in or any passion project you have. For me, I plan on investing in sober living homes to help people in recovery to get back on their feet and have another chance at life. And the reason I say that is because 14 years ago, I went through the program and it saved my life and turned it around for me. So I put down the bottle and I no longer had to drink. So helping other people in that position is a passion for me. I can't say what it is for everyone on the call, but I'm sure that you have something that you're passionate about. And then also buying assets, as Robert Kiyosaki also teaches in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You want to take the excess revenue and create good debt. Debt is not all bad. good debt means like buying an apartment complex where you're going to leverage, you got a 20 or 30% down. You're creating passive income by taking some of the revenue from your company, setting up another LLC or corporation for that project or entity itself, and then you're flowing it in that direction, and then it's flowing back to you. So you're just channeling the direction of money to help yourself and your family and those you love grow and protect it as much as you can. That's another reason for incorporating is, the protections that it involves. So there's so much strategy that I probably can't get to on this call because I want to at least break down the process of building corporate credit for you guys. So how it works is, first of all, you need to form an entity, so that's going to be step one. Step two is you want to make that entity legitimate. And when I say legitimate, you want to be legitimate in the eyes of the lenders, the funders, the people that you're going to try and get capital from. And so in order to do that, you got to think like lenders. And what they're doing essentially is assessing the risk. What they lend you money, what's the probability they're going to get paid back, with interest. So of course we all kind of understand that. How you do that is you're going to want to make sure that your phone is a professional phone, for instance. You want to be listed with 411 because believe me, the lenders will call and they'll verify. And you want to appear to be a professional company. And professional is, going to be listed with 411. It's going to be having an internet presence. So you're going to want a professional website or at least something that has your name and shows a web presence. You want to, here's a mistake I see a lot of people make, especially when they're beginning as entrepreneurs. They'll be like,
over again?
What's that?
Somebody had something,
Okay,
a question for Andrew? Okay, I'm going to have to mute them because they're just making a lot of noise.
Mute him.
Okay. So.
All right, go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so we got that. We're going to be listed with 411. Usually having an 800 number, 844, 877, whatever, it's going to look legitimate in the eyes of the lender. And back to the domain. You want the domain to include your name. So when you're researching names for your company, the company you want to set up, if you haven't already, you want to make sure the domain is going to be available for you. And try and get .com if you can, because it just shows more legitimacy for the lenders. The other thing is no more @gmail.com. You guys got to stop doing that. @yahoo.com. That is a signal to all lenders that you're an amateur. You have to include your domain. So it has to be andrew@flowbusinesslending.com, and that is my email. So if you guys, or info@flowbusinessfunding.com. So these are the kind of things to consider. You want to have a professional address. No more PO boxes, no more UPS boxes, preferably not a home. And, homes used to be okay, but now because of Google Maps, your home's going to show up as a picture on the Dun & Bradstreet. And I'm going to go into what Dun & Bradstreet is later on the profile when people pull you up. So getting a virtual office, if you are a home-based business, I would recommend finding a good virtual office. You can find them for as low as $50, $60 a month. And then you have a professional address. When they look you up, it's going to look legit. So they're going to look you up on the internet. They're going to look you up on your address. They're going to call and make sure that you're listed with 411. So these are all, and another consideration is the name. You want to think of what industry you're in, and management and marketing are general names or general parent company things you might want to consider because those are real easy to build credit to. They have a low risk. Like if you're a credit repair agency, you have the highest risk. If you're a real estate company, you have a high risk because it's very much based on how the economy goes. Because real estate companies could be doing great today and they're bankrupt in 2 years when the recession hits. So lenders know that. So those are some of the things to consider as well. And from there, then you're going to get your tax ID. So, and then you're going to go on Dun & Bradstreet and you're going to get what's called your DUNS number. So what you're trying to do, this is going to be the cornerstone of building your corporate credit separate. So getting a DUNS number, and when you call Dun & Bradstreet or you go through us or however you do it, you don't have to pay. They're going to try and upsell you to make you think that there's no way that you're going to be able to build business credit unless you sign up for their $800 to $1,400 program and And yeah, that's not true. You can get a DUNS number for free, and we'll show you how if you need any suggestions. So now that you have a DUNS number, you have a tax ID, you're legitimate in how the lenders are looking at you. Now, what you're going to want to do is start building your credit. How do you do that? The first, there's basically 3 tiers. The first tier is going to be you're going after vendor credit. And vendor credit is like supply credit. And it's usually based on what's called a net 30 account. So net 30 means that say you buy $50 or $60 worth of supplies from one of the vendors we recommend is Quill. You know, they give office supplies and all, you know, a variety of things. So what that will do is you'll sign up, you'll get a Quill account, and then you're going to buy something. Usually you want to purchase minimum $50, $60 and use stuff that you're going to use anyway for your business. But you're exercising your credit. And what that's going to do when you make the payment, and you want to make sure that you pay on time. With corporate credit, it's not like consumer credit's based on all these different things, like your inquiries and your history and your ratios, you know, how much credit you've used, how much you have available, how long your accounts have been. None of that. In business credit, it all comes down to, are you paying on time? That's it. So if you pay on time, you're going to get a good score. Better, here's a ninja trick for you all. You pay early and it reflects. So it actually boosts your score higher if you pay like a week earlier than what they're telling you're required to pay. So that's going to help boost your credit quicker. And how Dun & Bradstreet works is it's on a 0 to 100. So you're going to want to get to an 80 or better, because 80 is about a 740 plus FICO score in, you know, if you could think of consumer credit. So if you get to 80, 85, that's really good. And then you're building out your profile. So you're going to go for 3 or 4 accounts to kick it off. You're not going to give your personal information. You're going to do it solely on your company, you know, and they're going to be checking to make sure that you're legit. So make sure everything, your address, all this stuff is congruent with the Secretary of State where you live or where you're operating as a business. You want to make sure it's all consistent. So if you put the address as one thing on your Secretary of State and then you put it on your 411's different, it's going to reflect and you're going to get denied. So you have to have everything consistent so that it shows up consistently everywhere, whether it's on your website or, you know, you're filling out the applications for these vendor accounts, all this kind of stuff. So when you get the first few scores, you know, you're going to make your payment, you're going to buy something, you're going to make your payments, and then it's going to trigger a Paydex score, or it's going to reflect, because you want to get the vendors that are going to be reporting so that it ends up triggering a profile being made for you. So the first thing, after you get to the vendor, you want about 5 vendor accounts eventually, and then you're going after the next tier, which is, it's called store credit, or that's where you start getting revolving accounts too, like Staples, Home Depot, Lowe's, Sam's Club. You can get gas cards like Valero and BP. These things are all going to boost your profile. What you're trying to do is build about 10 accounts total between the vendor and store credit. And when you get to that point, it should be about 3, 4, maybe 5 months, because some of these vendors, and bear in mind, this is a dynamic industry. So I know, for instance, one of the vendors we were recommending, they used to require 100 down. Just 2 weeks ago, they raised it to 500. So we don't even tell people to go there anymore, because who's got 500 to kick down right away, especially if you're a startup. But anyway, just keep that in mind as you're going through this. So don't get frustrated if you run into roadblocks, because there's always another solution around the corner. So you're navigating through, you've got your 10 vendors, you're about 4 or 5 months in, and now you can start going after cash credit. And this, mind you, you haven't given your Social Security number or FICO score. Yes.
Andrew, this is Paul Denham in Phoenix. Could you go over those 5 vendors that you were stating? I know you said Staples and Home Depot were 2 of the 5.
Yeah, you know what? Probably the best thing is to go on the website and download the free guide. And here's another thing. I don't know if I mentioned this, Pascal, earlier, but I'm about to release my book, and it's called Entrepreneurial Money Secrets. And I give about 20 to 30 of these vendors that you guys can go after. So that would probably be the easiest way, so that I could just keep going through, because I want to like get through the presentation But
Okay.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
pretty much any store. Yeah, I'll break it down in a nutshell. Almost any store, whether it's Walmart, Target, Amazon, all these offer commercial credit. But they don't advertise it because they want you to personally guarantee stuff. But so in other words, like there's so many, it would be hard to list, all of them. But they are in the book, and I'll give you guys a link and let Pascal alert you guys when the book comes out, because I'm going to be giving it for 99 cents for a few days as basically like a free download, so I can get it, in as many people's hands as possible. And I would just ask for, if you like the book, if you could comment, it'll help, because then it'll, obviously boost it and be able to get in front of more people. Because as you can probably tell at this point, you guys are going to, having this information is going to really enable you to do some things that maybe you hadn't even considered before. So it is super powerful. So
Can
in any
I
case,
interject real quick? Can I interject real quick? Sir, what we can do for you is, and what we're going to do for literally everybody on the phone call, right, is we can email you a complete list of a half a dozen, actually it's more like a dozen different places where you can go and get starter corporate credit, and so tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 corporate credit. So if you you can do this in just by simply going to the Power Mondays Mastermind, putting in just signing up for the calls basically, and we can send it to you that way. And when we send you that, we're also going to send you Andrew's information as well for everybody. I'll make sure I email anyone that's signed up on the Power Mondays Mastermind. I'm going to send you Andrew's information, and I'm also going to send you a listing of some information that I actually got from somebody else, but it's really good, and it lists out tier 1 stuff. So corporate credit, and then tier 2 and tier 3 stuff. So basically, the easy to get stuff, the stuff that you have to develop to, and then the stuff that when you're really doing stuff, it'll list all those different companies. So it starts off with like the ones that Andrew mentioned, FedEx, Kinko's, Bags and Bows, Uline, USPS, so on and so forth. All right. So just go to PowerMondaysMastermind.com, and at the end of the call, I'll send that information out to everybody who signs up on Power Mondays Mastermind, and I'm also going to forward you Andrew's information as well. All right. Sorry about that, Andrew.
Yeah. Hey, no worries. I know we're on a time frame here, and I get rambling, and I'm realizing, sorry, a quarter till the hour. So basically, that's in a nutshell how it's going to be a 4 to 6 months process. And one thing to bear in mind, like I've mentioned this before, and I mention it again, because people get excited and they get in and they want immediate gratification. And this isn't one of those things. You're going to have to stick in it. You're going to have to, follow the process, because if you go out of sync, you start going for like gas cards right away, you're going to get denied, because you got to build your profile out first. So getting that first step of getting legitimate, making sure all that stuff is established prior to going into Dun & Bradstreet, getting your number prior to going after these vendor accounts. And before you go after revolving or store credit, you have to establish, and you're going to want to monitor your scores. You're going to want to look at as what's reporting, what's not reporting, why is one reporting and not. And eventually you're going to, that's when you're going to be able to determine when you can go to the next level. So having a coach or a guide taking you through this is really helpful, because you can read my book and probably do it just based on that. If you're one of those some people are able to just learn off of what they learn in front. Some people need some help, some motivation, some hand holding in some cases. So that's, we set the company up to be that way. We even have a done for you. I don't like to say done for you. We have a processor that will actually do this for you as well, and walk you through the process, apply for the accounts, make sure everything is being monitored. You're going after the right accounts that are reporting, because, there's a lot of commercial accounts out there, and some just don't report, unfortunately. And some report to several. because there's Dun & Bradstreet, there's also Business Experian. When you get into cash credit and stuff, they're going to be looking at that score. And then there's also Equifax. That's not used as much from what I've seen recently. It's more Experian, and Dun & Bradstreet is going to be your cornerstone for building this out. And then again, I always emphasize, work on your personal credit too, because synergistically between the two is where there's so much power. You know, you can qualify. It's not so bad to guarantee stuff as long as you know why you're doing it, what you're doing, and be responsible. You know, I think another thing about credit that I've just witnessed so many times, because half the applications I end up talking to people, their personal credit suffered, and a lot of it is just negligence, or they have this idea about credit where they go out and just buy stuff they really don't need. You know, when it comes to credit, you want to keep your utilization, whether it's business credit or personal credit, below 30%. And so that's why you want to continually increase your ability to access capital. Like if somebody came to me the other day, they're starting a nonprofit. I'm just going to give you an example. They said, well, I need $10,000, you know, for this. And we talked about what they're going to use it for and what they need it for. And, you know, that sounds about reasonable. And I recommended to them, then go after 30 or 40,000. And they're like, why? I only need 10. And I'm like, because you want to keep your ratios in a certain place, because just because you need 10 doesn't mean that having a little more, because you might have unforeseen things. And not to mention, in some cases, you can finance the stuff itself with itself. So what I mean by that is you can take a portion out of that, say you got 30,000 or 35,000, take a couple thousand out, put it in the bank account and put it on auto pay. So once you take your 10,000 out, and if you go through some of our programs, you might have 0% interest for 12 to 18 months as an introductory. So your payments will be low and it'll be predictable. So you set aside the money to make sure that it's paid on time or before, without you having to stress every month, how are we going to make this payment? You've already allocated a certain amount of money to make sure that it's paid on time, because skipping 1 month could screw you over, you know, and ruin your scores and stuff. And it's hard to fix. It's not like consumer credit where you can dispute, and, you know, there's the Fair Credit Reporting Act and stuff. With business credit, it's not really like that. So you want to keep that in mind from the get-go. But it's something that you're going to want to start putting together right away, because people want to go after capital after they need it. And when you need it, lenders don't want to give it to you. When you don't need it, they're more than willing to work with you. It's funny how that works, you know. And so, in other words, think about 12 months from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Where do you guys envision your company, your business, your life? And then backtrack. How are you going to get there? And then go down to the core. Why are you setting this company up? What's the purpose of it? What's your goal with it? And then how much capital are you going to need? Writing out a business plan, writing out a marketing plan, and then a budget. You're going to want to, all these track these numbers is all going to give you and believe me, it's going to give you a higher chance of success. And believe me, I know from making mistakes and having these lessons, as we call them, because I lost everything back in 2008. If I'm being honest, and why I know this is how powerful this can be, is that, I had a mortgage company. I had 5 investment properties. I was making really good revenue at the time. And then when 2008 hit, I was in the middle of a rehab project that I was about to flip. They cut my buyer's loan off. I mean, literally people were closing their shops within a week, and you couldn't get a mortgage. You couldn't get finance. And so the real estate market just tanked, as we all remember. I mean, anybody that experienced it. So I went from over $1 million in equity upside down in like 9 months. And I was like, geez, man, this is horrible. So these lessons learned, but what I did learn from it was I can build my business credit back up quicker than I can build my personal credit. So once you learn this information, it's something you can recur again and again and again, so that if something did fall down, hopefully it doesn't, and hopefully we plan well and we execute well and stuff. But if it does, you can turn around and start another company, build credit to it. Now you know the process. You feel confident that you can do it. And it's just super powerful for all of you. So hopefully the knowledge that you learn on this call, I know is kind of short, can enable you to reach more success. And that's really, I know Pascal feels the same way as me. And we really want to empower as many entrepreneurs as we can. My whole attitude and why I wrote the book and why I am passionate about what I do. I started this company, Flow Business Funding, because helping entrepreneurs succeed is really what drives me to continue to get outside of my comfort zone. And I'm not a public speaker, but I'm public speaking, you know, and I didn't even see myself as an author, but I wrote a book because I know I can get in front of more people and get this valuable information out there. And so, in other words, just in conclusion, I hope you all take something away from this call. Hopefully it just opens up the beginning of a conversation that will continue, and you'll continue to learn more and more. And more importantly, start to take action. You know, even if it's just a small something to get going, it's going to be really beneficial to get momentum built, you know, because it's easy to get excited one day and then a week goes by and you're like, oh yeah, what was that corporate credit stuff? Get in and start learning. Download the free guide today. You know, get on Pascal's list so we can send you the links when this book it's actually in the process of getting published by the end of this week. So I'll know more about it. I'm learning. This is my first time publishing, so I'm learning how it all works. And if you guys have questions about that, I'd be happy to help you with that as well. So that's about it for now, Pascal. I know we're coming to the end of the hour, so if anybody has any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And other than that, I appreciate you guys.
I have a question. With that corporate credit, I mean, is that? I mean, the corporation credit, I know for a fact, the only one, I mean, corporation give you the credit, which would be a C Corp, or does like a LLC will also help you to open up like a, corporation credit, or just the C Corporation?
No, that's a good question, actually. Yes, to answer your question, an LLC can also build corporate credit. So,
somebody's making a lot of noise, and you're going to be muted.
And an S Corp is a C Corp with an S Corp designation, and it can also build. And also, you know, I don't know how many of you own are founding nonprofits, but a nonprofit can also build corporate credit. Any legal entity can.
I also heard, and I read that one in the newspaper, that says the only C Corp will have a tax break at 20%. Is that true?
Yes. You know, when I was in that talk with the corporate CPA that just gave this talk, and we're actually thinking of doing a webinar together as well and teaching this, because, yes, she specified that LLCs can build corporate credit, but the highest and best is a C or an S or C Corp, really, for the corporate tax breaks. You are correct about that.
Okay, thank you.
And again, consult. I'm not a tax CPA or anything like that. This is information from somebody who has researched it, and she's got 30 years in that field. So,
I want to add something, if I may. So what I've always found and what I learned, you know, I don't know, it's embarrassing to say, but 20 plus years ago, from Ray Reynolds, which both Andrew and I had learned from when he was out there in the world doing things, you know, S Corp stands for stupid. And the reason that he used to say this is because, you know, why would you want to pass through corporation, right? Why would you want everything? You know, that's the reason for having a corporation is for separation. You don't want every dime, and I'm not a tax person either, but you don't want every dime that comes into your business to be passed through directly to you. You want to have that separation. So think about that. Talk to a tax professional about that, but I don't bother with S Corps. And as far as LLCs go, I do set up LLCs for clients as well as corporations, but I will tell you, in my experience, a corporation is always better because a corporation has been around forever, where LLCs haven't been around as long, and they're viewed differently because an LLC, even though I have one, is not a corporation. An LLC is a limited liability company, right? So it's still a legal business entity, but being a limited liability company, it is parts of a corporation, parts of a partnership, parts of a this, parts of that. It's a hodgepodge of different things to make a limited liability company, and they're awesome. But the tax breaks, once again, I'm not a CPA, but the tax breaks are different than for a corporation. I know the person that does my taxes, she will tell you that it's like it changes. So like hypothetically, I'm just using these numbers. So with a LLC, I can like make up to $900,000 hypothetically, right? And before my tax position changes. With a corporation, I can make like 1.2 million before my tax position changes. I'm just throwing out some numbers, you guys. So don't run saying, "Oh, well, Pascal said 900,000." I'm just throwing out a scenario, if you will. So keep that stuff in mind. I use LLCs. Always have. One of my primary businesses is under an LLC, Vanguard Global LLC, all that crap. But the bottom line is, corporations I have always found to be better. Corporations I've actually always, they seem like they get more money, the whole 9 yards. So that's been my experience. Andrew's may be different when he's dealing with himself and his clients, and you guys might be different, but that's what I have personally found. The other thing I would like to say is that, when possible, Andrew had mentioned this earlier, but when possible, get your corporation set up or your LLC, whichever you prefer. Get that bad boy set up and start doing things under it. So like one of our partners, Joy Sterling, who hopefully she's on the call, so she helped a client set up a corporation, and within that month, he was able to go out and get his car under the corporation. Now, he's the guarantor for it, but his tax position is going to be better because he has that car under his corporation, even though he's the guarantor. Does that make sense? It's all about positioning. It's all about, what is your objective? Now, admittedly, you need to build your personal credit. You need to get to that 700 plus FICO score, for preferably 720, 725 or better, to start really making things happen for you. But I'm telling you, once you get to that point, in my opinion, you really need to start shifting the things that you do into your business. It will benefit you if you're going to, people say this all the time at seminars and what have I go to, me and my family just went on vacation, but my wife is my CFO, my son is my this, my daughter is my that. They all have a part of the business, and they went to Hawaii and they did it in their corporation or under their corporation to have a corporate retreat or what have you. And they do that because the tax position is different. If you go to Hawaii and you do that crap on your personal, then guess what? It's money you spent, right? But if you do it under your corporation, now you're circulating your money. And that's a term I got from this guy, Reverend Ike, which is funny. But dude, he's like, circulate your money. Circulating your money means that the money is coming back to you, right? So, and when you do things under your business, you're paying your bills under your business, well, you can get different tax breaks under when you're doing it that way, as opposed to you doing it under your personal, if that makes sense. So that's all, you guys. I had to put that out there, a little rant. But Andrew, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, first of all, 100%. What he just explained to you guys is just piggybacking what the earlier conversation, and he clarified some things. And everything he said is I agree with. That you got to start rethinking your approach to entrepreneurism and circulating money. That's why I call it flow and grow. This is a different term, circulating, but you got to keep moving it. If you let it stay stagnant, it's like anything else. If blood stops in your body, if it's not circulating, you die. If water stays stagnant, it becomes, disease-ridden. Everything's got to flow. Energy always has to flow, and it's the same with money. So you guys are accessing the various money sources, directing it in your direction, hopefully to do something profitable, and then you want to increase and keep going with it. So what Pascal just mentioned is super powerful. Again, neither he or I are CPAs, so make sure that you get with somebody who's competent, not just an H&R Block, somebody that's doing personal tax. You need somebody that knows corporate tax and is up on all the latest changes and all the things like one of your listeners earlier mentioned, C Corp designation. Yeah, I agree with you. That's the closed corporation is the most powerful corporate entity you can have. So that would be a recommendation. But again, talk to your professional, talk to whoever. You can build corporate credit to LLCs and S Corps and C Corps and nonprofits. But if you want total protection and you want to take advantage of the latest tax breaks and everything, have a C Corp in the mix somewhere, because that's going to be beneficial for you for sure.
And even if you use your C Corp as your primary, and then do business under it with whatever you want, really, you know. So like, let's say that we'll call it Franco, because I know that voice. So we'll call it Franco Inc. And so Franco Inc. and then he has Franco Junior LLC or Franco Franco G at whatever, right? So any other designation. So basically you have your corporation and you build your credit under your corporation, and then you could do what's referred to as daisy chaining, which is sharing that initial credit that you built under the corporation, which is obviously the most powerful. You build that up first, and then you can start sharing that credit, daisy chaining that credit with your other entities underneath the primary entity. And also, if you really want to know, you would take that primary entity, that corporation that's building the credit and whatnot, then really not do any business other than building credit, and have all these other wings, if you will, all these other LLCs and corporations under their primary that are actually out there doing business. So that way, if something goes awry, if something happens, it's not a big deal. If something goes awry and something happens, then you can jettison or shut down that leg of the corporation, the leg of your business, I should say, and it doesn't affect the rest. It's almost like an amputating a gangrene foot or something, but the body stays healthy. You know, what everybody should know on this call is that business, real business, they do that. There's not a grocery store chain or a food chain or whatever they're all incorporated and they're all under their own. So like for out here, we have a grocery store called Stater Brothers. And if you look on their business license on the little state thing that they have to show, out there next to their little hallway that walks up to their office, where they got to have that, in public view, the State Franchise Tax Board thing, it'll say Stater Brothers Store 504. And then you go to another one, it'll say Stater Brothers Store 632, because that's how they're incorporated. Does that make sense to you guys? That's how, because once you get to a certain point, you want to have these different legs, right, that are expendable. And that's how big business does it. I mean, none of us are at that stage of the game yet, but you need to start changing your thinking, changing how you think about what you're doing. Start creating as much capital as you possibly can right here, right now. I'm on a mission myself. I had a bad time, as a lot of you know, and just lost every damn thing, but rebuilt and rebuilding even more. So, but I'm telling you, your mindset will make the difference between whether you succeed or whether you fail. Bottom line, mindset will make the difference. And that's why it's important to have a coach, have an Andrew, have a Nicole, have a Joy, have somebody that you can talk to that knows more than you, that will help you build yourself. And then once you get to their level, then move on. Find someone who knows even more than they. And that's how we succeed. That's how I have been able to make a living, because I keep on finding people that know more than I do to help me get to where I want to be. And then once I've learned everything, gleaned all the information off of them I can, I go to the next person that can help me build even more. Your business has to be run in that fashion. Everybody has a coach. I was just listening to something this morning with what's the dude's name? The big dude. He's been around for Tony Robbins. And it was so fun. I like to listen to a lot of positive stuff in the morning. And the thing that Tony Roberts, right, was saying is that he still has coaches. He has multiple coaches that he still goes to. And he's like looked at as this huge, mindset motivation guru. But he was saying that he goes to coaches because it's a necessity to keep his mind right so he can continue to grow. Does that make sense to people? I hope so. Anything you want to add, Andrew?
No, I agree 100%. We all, as much as, Michael Jordan even had a coach, and Tony Robbins talks about that. So we all need a little help. How I approach, helping each of my clients is I tell them that there's three things that I try and consider. We educate, we got to teach first, we motivate, because people, we run into fear and self-doubt and all these things, and we need motivation and sometimes a push to get going. And then we need facilitation. So that's what we also do is if you guys know you want to do this, we have a program that'll walk you through step by step, along the way, hold your hand, give you video training. We even, like I said before, we'll process your file. So it's something that no matter if you do it yourself or you do it with somebody, find a mentor and a coach to work with, because we all need that. I mean, I still have my mentors as well, as you do, Pascal, and a community of people that are like-minded and encouraging each other, because there's enough negativity in the world. And as we know it, as being entrepreneurs, it's one of the most difficult but yet rewarding and worthwhile things that you could pursue, because you're really changing your destiny. And we live in a country that's extraordinary in this way. And I mean, people come from all over knowing they want to have the opportunity to own a home, to own a business, to create their own lifestyle and a better life for their family, for their children, the grandchildren. And that's really what it's about. That's why us taking the time here, and I got to jump off because I got to, but I've really enjoyed the time here, by the way, everybody. And, but we're here.
You got your information again?
Yes. Yeah. Let me give you guys, again, my name is Andrew Ray. The name of the book coming out is Entrepreneurial Money Secrets. And so I know Pascal will get that information for you. Our number is 844-440-FLOW or 3569. So 844-440-3569 and www.flowbusinessfunding.com. And you can email us at info@flowbusinessfunding.com. Download the free guide. We have a full automated, you'll be getting information in our emails and videos, and it's just ongoing education, because we're going to continue to learn. I know for some people that are just introduced to this, it seems overwhelming, but it's not. Just take it one step at a time and baby steps until, you walk until you can run. So that's just how it works. So I wish everybody nothing but success and prosperity, getting ready for a big 2019. And again, thank you for having me, Pascal. I appreciate that.
Not a problem. Thank you for coming on. And I really, really, really want to thank everybody that participated and came on the call. And also Joy Sterling, and because I don't know if Joy is on or not. But Joy Sterling. Okay, hey Joy, give out your information as well, please.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name's Joy Sterling. My phone number is 818-877-0290.
Okay. And as you know, Joy is our partner on the Power Mondays Mastermind. And we also have Nicole. And Nicole, if you're on the line, and if you can speak up and give out your information as well. Okay, and here, Nicole. So anyways, you can, Nicole Tarver, and 872-207-4096.
I'm sorry. Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was talking and I don't know why just now coming in, but I'm sorry. I can be reached at 872-207-4096 or at info@expedientcreditsbc.com.
Okay, awesome. And once again, everybody, most everybody on this call has come from my email set, so you guys know how to catch up with me. 951-515-4728. I'm not even going to bother giving out my stuff really, but Andrew, you can reach him again either at his phone number, which is 844-440-FLOW, which is 3569. So 844-440-3569. And it's www.flowbusinessfunding.com. And please, if you're not signed up on our list, right, which is PowerMondaysMastermind.com, you will not receive the freebie information that we're going to send out to you. And quite frankly, as a Christmas gesture, we're going to send you actually a bunch of stuff that I think might be beneficial to you. So the first thing we're going to send out is the all the stuff we're having a listing of places that you can go to and get starter corporate credit. Okay. So that's it. Thank you so very much, everybody, for being on the call. And once again, thanks, Andrew. I greatly appreciate you coming on the call, man. Take care, everybody.
You got it, man. I hope everybody has a great and productive week and a happy holiday season. And let's kick off the new year and all get our businesses going and flourishing so we can make our impact.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.